Do you live in a world filled with corporate data? Are you plagued by siloed departments? Are your lackluster growth strategies demolishing your chances for success? Are you held captive by the evil menace, Lord Lack? Lack of time, lack of strategy, and lack of the most important and powerful tool in your superhero tool belt, knowledge. Never fear, Hub Heroes. Get ready to don your cape and mask, move into action, and become the Hub Hero your organization needs. Tune in each week to join the League of Extraordinary Inbound Heroes as we help you educate, empower, and execute. Hub Heroes, it's time to unite and activate your powers. Before we begin, we need to disclose that Devin is currently employed by HubSpot at the time of this episode's recording. This podcast is in no way affiliated with or produced by HubSpot, and the thoughts and opinions expressed by Devin during the show are that of his own and in no way represent those of his employer.
Except for the fact that Ryan Reynolds is coming to Inbound, and we're excited about it!
So I saw that, and I was like, is his keynote just going to be you and him hugging for an hour?
I mean, seriously, like, what's funny is I saw that, and I was like, wait, did Hub Heroes just tell the future? Because if you go back to when we were talking about Inbound and like, hey, who would you like to see? And all of a sudden, Devin was like, this person, this is who I'd like to see.
Wait, question, George. Do you think Dharmesh and Brian and Yamini are teeing us up for a Hub Heroes pre-show?
I mean,
I think that's
maybe they're all listeners and they're like, that is one hell of an idea. Let's go ahead and get him here. Maybe we did this and we just don't know it.
You know what? This is what the white women on Instagram called manifesting. I think that's what happened.
Oh,
and I agree with them. I am definitely live, laugh, loving right now.
Oh, that's right. And you're not even like the clearance version and home goods of the sign live, laugh, love. You are the brand new version for this season. I think it's beautiful. Look at that. Live, laugh, love, Devin.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, love.
Do it, brother.
Absolutely. But full transparency, every year HubSpot puts out a request to ask, who would you like to speak at Inbound? As long as I have been aware of Inbound, what is that?
Yo, what?
Sorry. I ended up getting a call.
Was it Ryan Reynolds, Max? Was it Ryan Reynolds?
It was Ryan Reynolds.
It was Riri.
Wow. Listen, if you could get him on the show, we would probably blow up, brother.
We could do a combo. We could have him talk about marketing and gin. It'd be great.
Oh, yeah. And Mountain, by the way. But anyway.
Nice.
You like that?
Chad, you knew about this months ago? Ooh, Chad. Oh, here's the thing. I am very disappointed, but I am also very impressed being able to sit on that kind of information.
Yeah, I would.
I only knew for a week ahead of time.
I also will say, shout out to Chad saying, I think they're doing a Chub Heroes pre-show. Ayo, and welcome back to another episode of Hub Heroes, everybody.
Holy crap.
This is what you miss out on when you're not in the live audience when we do these totally professional, not unhinged recordings. Because I will tell you, as evidenced by the episode that we did last time, which if you're listening on the audio feed, you heard maybe 40% of what was actually recorded.
There was a lot of editing on that one.
Favorite part was looking in ClickUp, and it was the first time I saw George actively need a note. So you need to listen to this one because there's a lot of cutting that needs to happen.
Yeah, I literally used the words "pay attention, homie." Like that was the thing.
Of homies, which is an absolutely terrible segue. I got to be honest. We spent a lot of time talking about the HubSpot Content Hub. And I am saying that as our resident content strategist. We have talked about AI. We have talked about, is it still a CMS? We have talked about AI again. We've basically spent like a month and a half on the HubSpot Content Hub. But I want to remind everybody of something very important, something that Max has taught us on multiple episodes of this podcast. The HubSpot flywheel has 3 components, not 2. Spending a lot of time in the attract and engage and not enough on the delight. want, as we start this episode, for everybody to take off their inbound hat for a moment. And remember that when we are off the clock, we are customers, we are buyers, we are clients. And you know what I freaking hate? That moment with a crappy company where you can feel the shift from when you become a prospect that they are trying to woo to become a customer to the moment you actually become a customer and they no longer care about you because you have clicked the buy. You have signed the contract. So that's why today's conversation matters. That is why we are here back in the delight bucket to talk about service.
A delight bucket?
A delight bucket. It's like chicken, but it's delight.
I hate that word.
Wow.
So Max, you
like I think you
said
melted
nothing
his
for
the
10
delight
minutes.
bucket.
Yeah,
You said nothing for 10 minutes,
Holy
and we
crap.
brought you out for bucket.
Yeah, you melted
Delight
his
bucket
brain.
for some reason really bothered me.
You literally melted his brain with delight bucket. 2 words.
It's a delight
Come on
bucket.
down to the delight bucket, everybody.
Wow.
Anyway, sorry.
11 spices and seasonings of service. I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. That's what we're talking about today, though, because I can't believe this, guys. We haven't talked about customer delight since episode 9.
Was
And
that
this
when
is-
Christina Garnett was on?
Huh?
Yeah.
Episode 9, and this is episode 83.
Wait, what? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So we have all been delightful delinquents. So that is what we are here to talk about today. I know we've talked a little bit about it, Devin, but we haven't done a deep dive on delight.
The reason why I'm pointing is because I'm pointing it at us just as much as I'm pointing at everywhere else in the world. We are guilty of the same thing that every other company does.
That's right, my
which
dude.
is making the customer success team an afterthought.
Mm.
We were so focused on sales and marketing and the glamour and the money, we forgot to talk about the people who keep the world turning.
Wait a minute. George, who did we forget to talk about?
Oh, we forgot to talk
God.
about the
Humans.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So everybody
There it
prepare for the fact that Devin has no opinions about this topic today. But what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to do a little bit of a delight refresher with a little bit of some sprinkles because the Service Hub has gotten a little facelift since we've been staring over at the Content Hub. But George, I want to start this conversation with you. As our resident, it's all about the humans ambassador.
Yeah.
I want you to talk to me about why delight is so essential to the HubSpot flywheel and the journey we take our customers on as they work with us.
Yeah, it's interesting because first of all, this question, when I was kind of prepping for the show, it brings back memories of when I first started kind of exploring the HubSpot flywheel concept when HubSpot brought it out, which, by the way,
We had a lot of feelings.
You know I'm torn between the funnel and the flywheel, but that's a different conversation.
We have a whole episode about that.
yeah,
So if you want to go back and listen to that.
I'm just going to stay on track here and share why delight is so crucial in this journey that the
Humans.
are supposed to be going on and should be going on. And honestly, I remember working with a small business owner. For her safety, we'll call her Sarah as we move forward. And Sarah needed help delighting her customers. She was initially extraordinarily exceeding at attracting new humans and engaging with those new humans. But they never seem to stick around, which listen, if you're listening to this, watching this, and you have they're going out the back door problem, then this conversation of delight should be something that you're diving into. And so we started focusing on the delight stage of the flywheel. And listen, delight, and by the way, HubSpot is even, I think it was Dan Tyre, used the word delation maybe for the first time on the planet. And I was like, ah! But the word delight or delation, it's just not a feel-good buzzword, but it literally is about when we're saying this word, as we move forward on this podcast and we're talking about these pieces, I want you to know it's about creating memorable experiences that make customers want to stay, and not only stay, but advocate, become evangelists for your brand, right? So think of it like you're hosting a dinner party. You don't want your guests to just enjoy the food. You want them to enjoy the food and feel welcome, feel valued, and be excited to return the next time that you decide to host a party. And you have to ask yourself, as a business, are the humans that you're serving excited to come back again and again and again to your products, to your services, to the educational training that you might provide? Because the same principles apply to your customers. When you delight them, you make them feel special. You make them feel appreciated. And when I break this down and I stop and think about the HubSpot flywheel and the journey we take our customers on, there are a few reasons, Liz, to get to the real point of your question, that delight is essential. The first one is that we as humans, I'm going to see how many times I can throw that in there, but no.
Give me one more good one.
Humans. We as humans should be focused on how much can we build trust and loyalty. Can every action we take, can everything we're thinking of, the strategies, build trust and loyalty? Customer trusts your brand more when you feel genuinely, or when they feel genuinely cared for. This trust turns into loyalty. The loyalty turns into customers that are super golden, and they stick around through thick and thin. Like, listen, I've got clients who, when I had to send out, I didn't, by the way, but when my wife sent out the email of like, man down in the hospital. Many clients historically that I've seen that work with agencies would have been like, well, that doesn't have jack to do with us. Like, all of our clients were like, dude, take the time, get well. Like these, because they've been delighted, right? And so this is how you keep a stable revenue stream, by becoming so good at delighting them, building that trust and loyalty, that it's a relationship, a friendship, instead of just a transaction. That when the transaction's done, it feels icky, kind of like you talked about at the beginning, Liz. This also enables something that has helped us be able to be who we are and become who we are, going from George B. Thomas LLC to Sidekick Strategies, and that's word of mouth marketing. If you look at our analytics of social, of SEO, of email, and you apply it against word of mouth marketing to close customers, but the only way you get there is because you've delighted customers and they've become your brand evangelists. There's literally a life cycle stage in HubSpot called evangelist for a reason. Not just because they decided they needed to add another thing in between customer and other, but because they're painting a picture of the future of, if you're going to treat humans like they're humans and create great experiences for them, then you're going to need a place to segment them so that you can talk to them in a certain way and do certain things for them. But these evangelists are going to talk about your products, your services to their friends, to their family, heck, even to freaking strangers that they end up having conversations with. They're going to be like, hey, right? So you have to think about that. The power of delight also is going to enable this thing, and then I'm going to be quiet. Feedback and improvement. When it becomes about relationship and friendship, it's easier to get the feedback. When you have the feedback, you can improve. If you don't have the feedback, improvement becomes very difficult. Happy customers are more likely to provide that valuable feedback for you. They want to help you improve because they care about your products and want to see it succeed. Why? Because your products and services are directly tied to how they're going to succeed. So it's a this begat that type scenario, AKA the flywheel, where if they help us get better, we get better, they get better, they help us get better, we get better, they get better. And this is why it is. Now, listen, I could talk about reduced churn. I could be talking about creating a positive culture. In other words, I could continue and continue and continue. There's multiple reasons why this is important, but Hub Heroes listening to this or watching this, like, you might be wondering what to do. And here's the thing I want to say before we all jump into the rest of this thing. Start by understanding your customers' needs and desires. Now, I'm going to say that again, because when I first say that, what I hope people aren't hearing is what your features of your products and services and benefits are. No, I literally said start by understanding your customers' needs and their desires. And then once we really know those, now we can personalize the experiences and we can start to surprise them with thoughtful gestures and always be there to support them. I need everybody listening to this to reflect on how you can exceed their expectations. But to exceed them, you have to understand what they are. Have you actually asked in some sort of way with a HubSpot tool what the frick they actually expect from you? Because if you haven't asked that question, you don't know the expectations, and it's almost impossible to exceed those expectations. And by the way, I'm talking about at every touch point, Liz.
So
That's
George,
why it's important.
So wait, George, I just need you to bring some clarity to this.
Yeah.
You didn't have to join this episode if you weren't passionate about it, right? Like if you didn't really have anything to add.
I mustered it up.
I
mustered it up a little bit.
Well,
He's been cooped up in a hospital room all week. He had to get that out.
Take that out.
I'm hearing the note. I'm taking the note.
There's
right?
some pent up energy. You can only lay around for so long, and then you're like, I can't wait to get on the show.
All I know is that he said
I could just imagine the nurses in the hallway just being like, "This guy won't stop saying humans all the time."
The funniest thing, I will tell you this is a real thing, and it made me smile. You know how and by the way, I'm sorry, Hub Heroes listeners, this may actually
we're not sorry.
This might be valuable. But you have nurse rotation, right? And they come in and they talk about why they're there and blah, 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 blah. And I got to like my third nurse rotation, and the nurse said to the other nurse, and by the way, he's one of the easiest, kindest humans that you're going to have to deal with on your shift.
Aww.
And I just kind of sat there quietly, but when they walked out the door, I got this big shit-eating grin, and I'm like, yes, I am. Because I even though in pain, I wanted to show up as a good human, and I wanted to not take out on them what was happening inside me. And like I was purposely focusing on this, and to see that output from a human's mouth,
there we
I was
go.
like, I'm achieving my goal here.
All right, Devin and Max, ask you something so we have Devin, you are a current HubSpotter. Max, you are happily living your life, but you were a
I see what you did there.
You see what you did?
I don't like the word former. It's my.
You're a HubSpotter for life.
It's in my
whatever.
blood still.
Whatever.
You can't take the sprocket out of the boy. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
I don't know why that made me like moderately uncomfortable.
I was going to say, I know.
Okay. All right. Delight bucket.
Delight bucket is better than sprocket out of the boy. Let's be perfectly
I
honest
feel like
here.
that would be a great like Astro Boy though. Enter Sprocket Boy. Like maybe
All
you
right.
could.
Whatever. Just don't put a sprocket in a delight bucket.
Yes.
'cause then you
I
got
think
problems.
that might explode.
Well, that actually makes them both less scary.
You're right, Devin. I did have a
Also-
question for you about Delight. This is not going off the rails at all on question 2. We're fine.
It's a Friday.
Bird, cats, and proceed.
It's fine. It's fine. And nobody's messing with my outline this week. It's fine. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, now I know what
Devin.
to do next.
I understand you just got back from the hospital.
I was going to say you weren't here for that.
No,
You
he
didn't see
was.
what
I
Here
was.
for that.
I was.
Oh, he
You were
was
here for that?
100% here for that.
Yeah.
The trauma, the experience. No, so Devin and Max,
S tier.
as permanent members of the HubSpot family and a sprocketful delight bucket, I have a question for both of you. What have you found in your experience that most inbound organizations get wrong, even the most well-meaning ones, when it comes to customer delight and how to do it well?
The point. They forget the point. The point of delighting a customer isn't to check boxes, it's to make them happier. At HubSpot, we say we help our customers grow better. And I've seen entire slide decks that break down every segment of that phrase. So when I say we mean it, we mean it. And generating content for the sake of generating content is noise. You are contributing to the ever-filling landfill that is the digital landscape. when what you should be doing is listening more and saying things that resonate. And if you cannot do that, at the very least, elevate others in your ecosystem who can. And if you can't do that, then shut up.
Preach.
Okay.
Preach.
Matt?
Wait, hold on.
I
This
think-
episode had the disclaimer in the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
it
It
did.
did.
It did.
Yeah.
It said that Brian, Dharmesh, and Yamini fully support and endorse every word
Yeah.
that comes out of
Yeah.
your mouth,
That's
and
what I
that
thought
you
it
and
said.
Ryan Reynolds will be married.
The
Matt?
good thing,
That's what I thought.
Devin, is if you pay me $50, we'll leave it in during editing.
That's beautiful.
You completely underestimate my willingness to blow up my own life for giggles.
We all have different versions of delight. Are we delighting our customers or are we delighting ourselves?
I'd like
I'm
to
sorry,
I'd like to
Liz.
delight Ryan
I'll
Reynolds, if
leave
you know what I mean.
alone.
Anyway,
I have been intentionally trying to.
Okay, so
Stop.
this
I'm
is
gonna
my
stop.
fault.
Go ahead.
This is my fault as the host of not making sure we had a shared definition of delight before we began, but we will fix this in post. Matt,
Oh, yeah.
talk to me, booby.
Hold on. Since we're still talking about the parts we're going to cut out, I just want to say this:
Oh no.
delight hole. Okay, moving on.
oh
Oh,
jeez.
Wait,
Even
it wasn't me. It
worse.
wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Noah, you know what to do
Oh,
with the last
God.
15 seconds. Just
You know to keep it in, right, Noah?
Make a clip.
Listen to me, Noah.
Clip
keep
it.
it in.
Chat,
Dev-
clip
Devin,
it.
Devin
Chat,
doesn't
clip
need
it.
to get fired. Delete that, Noah.
Noah, keep it in. The good voices are telling you to keep it in. What are you going to do? Listen to your father, Noah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
He
this is
should
so
on
awful.
this one. Are we going to get to Max or not?
Guys, can we talk about the fact that Max is the responsible one right now and he doesn't even have a steering wheel?
No,
That's where
yeah.
we are.
Yeah,
Are
he's
you?
he's being Papa
I'm
Max
just
right
getting,
now.
I'm getting, listen,
That's got to be like the fifth or sixth seal. We got to be close to the end.
Oh my God. Can we just point out for the record that it wasn't me and I didn't do it?
Yes, Liz, it wasn't you. You didn't do it this time.
I think they underestimate the impact, which is ironic because when I asked most companies what they were doing to, or what they were doing before they came to HubSpot and how they were getting new business, the answer was always word of mouth, right? Which is funny considering, you know, it's literally caused by delighting people, right? If that's the only lever you have to pull, if you don't have any sales, if you don't have any marketing, all you really have is a good product or at least a decent product, but you know how to take care of people, right? You know, so it's funny when organizations get bigger, they kind of tend to, you know, forget how much of an impact it has, right? And like, here's the other thing too, you know, net new business is great, but you know what's even better than that? Renewals and repeat business, right? And guess who does that? Your customer service team, not your sales rep, right? All the people on your customer service team and all the people that are responsible for delight, they're the ones doing all that legwork to make sure someone comes back and buys again, right? Not just the salesperson convincing him to do it, right? You know, and I think a lot of people forget that and don't put a huge emphasis on it. That's why you don't see, for example, service people have any sort of like commission on renewals and stuff like that. It's still all going to the sales rep because there's a lot of broken thinking around that, right? You know, so I think the other thing that I would like mention too, and is like, why is this stuff and so important? What's better than a marketer that you pay?
Oh, yes, please, Max, go for it.
Keep
a
going.
marketer that pays you, right? Your customers, your promoters, the people that have been taking care of you so much because either you had a great product or, you know, and it was exactly what they thought they were going to buy, right? Or, you know, they had some kind of problem and you took care of them, or they were in some weird situation and you didn't make it like difficult for them to get help, or get this, maybe you actually took steps to ensure that they were actually successful with your product, not just happy, right? Which, you know, it's not about making customers happy. Happy is a byproduct of making your customers successful with whatever the fuck you sold them, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I didn't bleep that one out because it's important to understand that, right? You know, so I like, you know, a lot of times people just like aren't thinking about this stuff, or they aren't like, you know, when they think of the flywheel and they think of delight, a lot of the times they think that just means like bending to a customer's will or giving out free stuff or, you know, spending a ton of money on stuff that doesn't generate non-revenue generating activities, when it's just like the wrong way to look at it, right? Like you got to take care of your customers And like, that's what's going to turn people into promoters and get them to go amplify all the marketing messaging that your marketing team's doing, right? When you have customer proof, when you have things like, case studies and testimonials and positive reviews and like all this stuff, none of that's going to happen if you don't have any sort of like intentional motions around how you delight people, right? That's where all the momentum comes from, right? When you can leverage your existing customers, right? And, on top of that, like we've all heard it, it's more expensive to go get a new customer than it is to retain one, right? And, it's important to retain those folks and keep them happy and get them to bring other people to you, right? It's just physics.
Now that we've got a nice little delation bucket refresher,
Yeah.
George, I actually want to come back to you for a moment, because the goal of today's conversation is not just to remind people that, like, hey, maybe you should make your customers happy and not make them feel like crap. Like, duh, that is important. But we wanted to dig more into the tools today. Specifically, we have some updates that we want to be talking about to the HubSpot Service Hub. But given that it's been a while since we've had some dedicated time in our feed to the Service Hub, George, for the folks at home who either have Service Hub and are neglecting it and aren't using it to its fullest potential, or maybe are like thinking about it but are not quite there yet, can you give us a quick refresher on what it is and the mindsets we should be embracing when we're looking at this technology?
Yeah. So again, I think this is for many people might be a wait, what moment, because, and what I mean by that, by the way, one of the things I found fascinating during our super admin training that we started like 2 weeks ago, we talked about HubSpot objects and how people think when they think about HubSpot default objects. And most humans, if you ask them, what are HubSpot default objects? They'll say companies, deals, tickets, and contacts. And I literally had a room full of wait, what moment humans, because when I told them that, did you realize there's 15 default HubSpot objects right now in your portal? 15 default objects, not 4. So we don't live where we used to live. The fact that lists and workflows are now a default object in HubSpot should be blowing people's minds. Same situation here. If you historically ask people, what is HubSpot Service Hub? They'll say, oh, it's knowledge articles. It's help, or it's knowledge articles.
Ticketing.
It's surveys. It's, like they'll list off 3 to 4 tools, right? Pipe tickets. I can do tickets and I can do knowledge articles and I can do surveys. Whee! Like that's the historical mindset. We live in a whole new world with everything that's been being built. Why do you think there's been 100 updates and 33 betas that we could have taken in and used in the last 34 days? Because HubSpot is doing things. But when I think about what HubSpot Service Hub is now, it's help desk and ticketing, where we have the ability to manage and resolve tickets, by the way, with AI-driven insights underneath them, human-powered, AI-assisted. We have the knowledge base, which enables self-service to reduce these support requests. We also have in here omni-channel messaging, so we can communicate across multiple channels seamlessly in our inbox with chat and email and now phone. We've got even an AI-powered chat, which is in beta, but you can use a GPT-powered chatbot to route users to support where it needs to be. We've got SLA management, customer success workspace, which, by the way, is in beta, to drive retention with health scores and insights and things like that. We've got feedback management with surveys. We've got conversation intelligence, where we can capture and analyze call details with AI. By the way, one of my fastest growing favorite things is HubSpot calling and the freaking conversation intelligence tied together. You've got customer portal. You've got the fully integrated smart CRM underneath it. Add on service analytics, the team management, and the mobile inbox, not to mention automated customer service, where we can automate tasks to focus on problem solving for the humans. And all of a sudden you realize it's not 4 freaking lines in the SaaS software, but something that you could use to absolutely change the way that you do business. Mindsets, Liz, to be honest with you, we could probably do a whole episode on mindsets actually around Delation and like the Service Hub, because we could dive into things like, well, what are the customer-centric mindsets that we should have? What's the continuous improvement mindsets we should have? What's the data-driven decision mindsets we should have? What's the personalization mindsets we should have? What's the collaboration mindsets we should have? What's the technology adoption, problem solving, trust and transparency, accountability mindsets we should be having? But we don't have a whole episode for this. So here's a couple things. One, customer centricity. I want us to really lay into, because it's really important for
Humans.
to understand that when empathy drives your strategies, tactics, methodologies, and beliefs, you're going to get to a place where you can actually empower the humans and delight them. I also want people to realize, because we've talked about this a little bit in the past, feedback-driven mindset, meaning if you don't have a voice of customer system set up with HubSpot right now and have that feedback loop so that you can improve, then you definitely need to be doing that. I also would lean in here for the third and final thing that I'm going to talk about. Could talk about more, but if you don't have a dope segmentation mentality, because now you can actually segment customers and provide more relevant and targeted support, more relevant and targeted conversations, more relevant and targeted education, because they are segmented. A customer is not a customer. That's why we literally customized our life cycle stages. We have customer, by the way. We also have historical customer in our database because we're segmenting them in a separate way. And inside of both of those, we even have secondary segmentations for both of those for us to truly understand how we should be doing this. So those are three that you should be thinking of: segmentation, definitely feedback driven, and third, empathy. So you can truly empower the
Humans.
that you're helping.
Again, George, not much to say on this episode, huh?
Just a little bit.
Just dabbling here and there.
Just dabbling. Just a little dibble dabble.
Max, what do you got for me?
Whenever you're ready.
Wait, Devin, where are you going?
No, I was just encouraging George to come out of his shell.
Really,
A little
George,
bit.
Yeah.
I know.
Quiet little guy.
Hear the note and take the note.
All right.
So I really have kind of like one main mindset around like Service Hub and all that kind of stuff. What you got to remember is like great tools aren't going to make people who don't give a shit about your customers give a shit about your customers, right? So like first and foremost, you got to go out and you got to either find people who you know can give a shit about actually helping your customers out and genuinely care about it, or you got to create a culture that encourages that or fosters that, right? The way you want to be looking at the Service Hub tools, right, is making sure that technology is not a barrier for those people to be able to help them, right? So when I think about things like the knowledge base, right? Again, to go kind of back to like the idea of physics is like that knowledge base is sort of like a heat shield for these folks that are already overwhelmed helping everybody else out, right? Why do you want to get customers to be able to like self-serve their problems? It's like, well, sure, people feel empowered when they're able to find an answer to like solve it on their own. And right. And a lot of people don't like to talk to folks, right? But the other reason you do it is you want to make sure that like you don't have to send every single person who just wants to reset their password to a human being, because that human being should be freed up to solve more complex issues, right? And not get burned out, right? So like when I think about like all these different things that we've added into Service Hub, it's really more just stuff that like you should look at it as a way to enable your team to not let technology get into the way and make it easier for them to solve problems, but not get totally overwhelmed and like destroyed by like an onslaught of, you know, customer issues, right? Because you want to be able to let them manage their day more effectively. You want to be able to manage burnout. You don't want to lose good people that actually give a shit about helping your customers out, right? Those are some of the most important people that you can retain, because that is a trait that is rare to find and difficult to build a culture around, right? So you want to protect those folks as best as possible. You don't want technology making it harder for them to do that thing and then for them not want to do that job anymore, right? So look at the Service Hub lens or Service Hub tools through that lens, right? And I think you'll find like more practical ways to deploy it and think about it the right way and really get an understanding of like what your team needs to do their job better to actually like take care of people and like what's stopping them, right? And look at the tools in in that way, I guess.
Max, I love the point that you brought up there because it reminds me of a conversation, quite frankly, George, that I had with one of our clients this week. So they are a commercial cleaning company. They're based in Australia. And one of the things that I was talking with the owner about quite a bit this week is that he says a lot of times, sometimes their clients will lose sight of the fact that if our cleaners are happy, our clients will be happy. People who are doing the work of delition, whether it is inside or outside of a bucket, with the people who are doing the look, I'm watching Max's soul escape his body in real time. It's so beautiful. Look at that. I can hear that hissing noise. That's what that is. No, but when we think about the people who are actually in charge of delivering the delight, right? And I say this as someone who has worked in customer service department. I was a Comcast customer service supervisor. So if you were big mads, you were being escalated to me. I did that for a couple of years, but I've also worked in small customer service teams. Like the majority of my career before I switched to inbound marketing in 2014, I was in customer service teams. And what I will tell you is that there was a direct correlation between the tools with which we were empowered to help the people we were serving and how well we were empowered to be happy. Delighted people delight people. Unhappy people do not delight people. Unhappy people pass those unhappy savings on to other people.
Hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people. Especially hurt Comcast people hurt Comcast people. Shit, it was awful. Okay. Yeah. So let's start digging into the tool a little bit. I'm going to open this up to the floor. I know all of us were taking a look through that big feed of all of the different Service Hub updates, but I'd love to hear from you guys. What are the HubSpot Service Hub updates we're the most excited about that people should be looking at?
So I think obviously like the big one is that customer success workspace.
I saw that.
But I think
what is that?
So the customer success workspace is basically the equivalent of like where a CSM would live or someone in a CSM like role. It's hard to use the word CSM because that has like such a direct connotation to be like, oh, it's somebody who works at a SaaS company, right? When it's like, no, like any sort of customer service, customer delight, customer success, customer experience, whatever, support person, right? It gives them their space to work, right? And their home to live in, kind of like the prospecting tool did for our BDRs and our full cycle AEs and stuff like that, right? The more exciting thing, though, is not, oh, here's this cool new workspace and it does all these things. The more exciting thing is the shift that you're seeing in Service Hub to not just be about reactive support, but also start to think about how they're handling proactive success, right? Because if you think about it, Service Hub was really just for a support team. You had tickets, you had your knowledge base, right? You had your surveys, right? All things. I mean, surveys it's kind of hard to argue that to put it just narrowly in that bucket, but like
bucket. You said bucket.
The big thing. I said bucket.
There wasn't a man from Delight Bucket.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But well, no, because I'm just saying you can use. It's obvious that you can use service, surveys for things other than just support stuff, right? Gathering feedback's always important, and you could do that proactively. But like when you look at things again, like customer portal, tickets, conversations inbox, help desk, like this is all very much geared towards reactive support type motions, not necessarily proactive success type motions, right? So it's really cool to kind of see them, clearly sending a signal that they're building the tool in that direction to be able to support both of those motions. And CSMs or whatever the industry equivalent is in whatever business type you work in, right? And it's cool that they have that place to live and there's going to be more stuff for them to help make their customers successful, not just be there when there's a problem, right? Which is very much what it was before, or at least perceived to be.
Yeah. Devin and George, what are you excited about in terms of the most recent Service Hub updates?
For me, I am and it's going to sound corny, but I'm actually excited for the marketing around the Service Hub updates.
Oh, talk to us about that, buddy. We like a happy
so-
Devin.
Service Hub has been around for longer than some people think about.
Yep.
But the problem is that when it rolled out, it was almost like a soft launch. It was so quiet. People had a hard time, wrapping their heads around the value of it, especially when their existing solutions were doing just fine. But with the past two revamps, and especially with the launch with the updates, like Salim said, custom events and health scoring, super exciting.
Salim in our audience, yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is a great time for Service Hub and for people to wrap their heads around Service Hub. Case in point, the app integrations. You've always been able to integrate with every part of HubSpot almost through APIs. That's nothing new. But now we are helping people understand that you don't necessarily have to abandon ship with all of your existing tools. We have apps that will integrate with your existing tools. Jira, Pando, Segment. I had to look at the notes because I don't use those tools, but you guys do, and they work with HubSpot, and you should try it.
Yeah, I think you bring up such a good point about marketing using stuff that's happening in the Service Hub, quote unquote. It could be as simple as like, we're doing NPS surveys and we got a customer referral campaign coming up. Why don't we see people who have literally said that they would recommend us to somebody else and use that info to target them, right? Or like even when you think about customer health score, right? Maybe now when things aren't going so great at a company, you suppress people that are associated to that company from any marketing emails that you go out. So if you're at like a, red alert, fire, everything's broken and that customer score is in the tank, right? Marketing can say, hey, maybe we kind of lighten up on the marketing emails that we're sending them since the relationship's not so hot anymore, right? It's like, dude, wait, how do you even do that when your customer success systems are separate from your marketing tools? Like, it's almost impossible, right? Unless you've got some crazy big brained, well thought out integration, which as we all have kind of seen, those don't happen a whole lot, right? So just like, again, more and more parts of your business happening inside of HubSpot means there's more and more data points, right, that marketing can use to adjust the experience, right, that customers have with your marketing, which is cool.
And I would say yes to everything Max said, but I would say everyone can use all of those data points. Like, that's the thing. I get so frustrated when we think of things like in hubs, and I get so frustrated when we think of things in departments versus like a company using a tool. It just kind of simplifies the complex. And honestly, like, Liz, there's two things that I want to mention here. And they're on the back of something. If you recall back a little bit ago in the episode, I talked about that there's 15 default objects. And by the way, if you don't follow Dharmesh on LinkedIn, what the heck's wrong with you? But I'm going to call back to this thing that actually happened on LinkedIn where it was a conversation. Connor Jeffers said something about lists and workflows being objects in HubSpot. And Dharmesh literally on LinkedIn said, between us friends, I'll let you in on a secret. We have been on a 12 plus year journey to make everything in HubSpot an object, thereby getting maximum leverage from the HubSpot framework. There's this magical multiplicative effect that happens as the HubSpot framework gets more powerful, as the framework gets more powerful. All objects that are on the framework get smarter, get more capable. I did doubles there for a reason, which, by the way, Liz, it says that you're in Riverside in more than one tab. So check that real quick, please. Okay, thank you. Noah, edit that part out. So here's the thing. I want to bring up two things that I'm super excited about. One, if you go to your settings and you go to your objects, you're not going to visibly see something that an update talks about is there or will be there, but is a power that is in part of HubSpot already. And that is user object. User object is available in workflows. Workflows can now be configured to be user-based. Customers will experience the same behavior that they are used to when building workflows centered around users. You know what I hear when I hear that? Centered around
Humans.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear when I hear that. So here's the thing. All of a sudden you have a user object that you have in workflows. And then if we double down, there's the AI assisted or assistant to create workflow actions. I am so in love with the future power that this will give, because workflows has always been a place that has been confusing, frustrating, fearful. I could keep listing negative mindsets and feelings around the workflows tool because they think that it's complex and they might potentially break something. And so to have and again, this is as bad as it will ever be because it will always be getting better, to have an AI assistant help create the workflow actions that could be centered around the user object or any other object. Now, all of a sudden, we get into a place where we can truly start to have conversations around automatic, automagical, automated, augmented, because there's these different layers of what we can and should be doing with these tools. And by the way, are we talking about Service Hub and Service Hub updates right now? Yes. Did everything that just came out of my mouth work for sales? Yes. Marketing? Yes. Other departments that will be in HubSpot in the future, I don't know, HR, accountants? Probably. Yes. These are the things that start to excite me. There's another one, but I'll keep that on the down low for right now.
Now I want to know what it is.
See, I might have done that purposely. If you haven't checked out...
Oh, shocking. Did you just tee me up for something? I'm not going to say something.
Hey,
Liz is going to ask me, well, if
it's
you
better than getting yelled at. If you have not checked out the reply recommendations in Help Desk yet, you need to check out the reply recommendations in Help Desk. It's an update. Users will see reply recommendations in the Help Desk Composer and can send, edit, or close suggestions with one click of these recommendations. This takes me back to SEO recommendations and all the things that we could be doing, should be paying attention to, but from a helping humans side of things. I think this gets real powerful in the future as well.
Do those recommendations look at your knowledge base content?
So I don't know exactly what it looks at. I can give a link, or we can put a link. Oh, I don't know if we can put a link in this because it's in different portals. We may have to create a video. What I will say is in the update, Max, it does talk about how it learns over time. So there's that.
I mean, you have to imagine, if you're setting up your AI chatbot or whatever, it's all got the same data it's looking at. But it'd be interesting if it was something in the settings for quick replies on what are you training that thing on?
So it does. Because, I will say this. I will say this, Max. It says, first of all, toggle the setting on to pull in knowledge base as a source for reply recommendations. Now, here's where it gets interesting. To further refine your sources, click on the AI content sources button. If you're using both AI chatbot and reply recommendations, the sources you add to this page will inform both tools.
So, George, I'm going to ask you here in a moment about the betas you are excited about. But before we get to the betas, we've been making jokes about the fact that I was the supervisor you escalated to when you were big mads about everything. And I've worked at a number of customer service organizations. And I've heard all of you throughout this episode refer tangentially to maybe other departments could start paying attention to some of the insights and intelligence that customer service is gathering. And whether you have a big call center or whether you just have one or two folks who are tasked with handling tickets or questions that come in from your customer service team. I mean, I got to be perfectly honest. I think part of the disconnect, and maybe things have changed since I was in customer service, but I think there is this incorrect assumption, depending on people who you talk to, where they consider marketing and sales a discipline and customer service something you deal with. I mean, I remember I've worked at companies where I was on the customer service team and it was considered less of a discipline, less of a talent, less of a skill set because I wasn't in marketing or sales. So I think what's been fascinating as we've seen this flywheel mentality and mindset come into where delight and service is a critical part of the customer journey and not just an afterthought once you finally get them to be a customer. It's really refreshing to see that change. But I think more organizations need to adopt that mindset. Customer service and delight is challenging. It is hard. It is something that should be proactive, to Max's point, and not always reactive. And I don't think people always look too kindly upon the people and the discipline that is required in order to do it well. Anyway,
Yep.
that's my little
True.
that is my little soapbox for today's episode. So
It's
George,
good.
talk to us about the betas.
Yeah, which by the
I
way,
know there were a couple you were hyped about.
which by the way, two of the things that I mentioned previously are betas.
already
So
betas.
like the user object is beta, and the I believe the recommendations is a beta. However, I'll keep going with my favorite betas because one of the things that is in beta now is this idea of weighted rotation option in meeting rotations. And that allows us as HubSpot users to create a weighted rotation for booking meetings through the CRM. So think about why that matters and how it works. And if you've ever wished you could have more granularity to how the meetings were being dispersed amongst your team, this beta right here is going to get you into that kind of place. This other one that I'm going to mention, it might be a really, dude, really, you're excited about that? I can already feel the hate mail because I know that I stepped on a platform where I was super pissed that you could actually enroll people in a sequence with a workflow. I stood on that hill. However, there is a new private beta that is actually sequences embedded automation, meaning they're adding a new automate tab to the sequences tool, allowing users to effectively create and manage automated enrollment and unenrollment triggers directly from the sequences tool.
It's sick.
Which yes. If you start to think about and if you start to build your sequences, your templates in a different way, and if you start to, again, and by the way, this has been a big theme for me over the last 30 days, rethinking how you're using HubSpot and going to use HubSpot, because the HubSpot that you once had is not the HubSpot that you now have. Let that sink in for a second. But if you rethink templates and sequences and automation and where and why it'll work, this is actually a magical beta that you should be diving into and thinking if it makes sense for your business. So there's two more that are updates to the service hub, tickets, knowledge, surveys. No, that's not what it is. It's not what it's going to be.
I love it. Max and Devin, are there any other updates you're excited about, beta or otherwise? We covered all of it.
The thing is that I'm not really tracking beta updates. That's not something that I do. It's the absolute worst part.
You hurt George. You've wounded him. Can you see that?
Gosh.
Yeah,
He just got out of the hospital, Devin.
I might need
Why
a
did you
minute.
do this?
I might need a minute.
Well, he should
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm getting verklempt.
People who love HubSpot dream of working at HubSpot. All I can say is, this is the one thing that
Facts.
This is the one thing.
I feel
Well,
you.
then, Devin, I actually want to keep it with you for a second. I would love to hear from you, though, even though you are coming from deep within the sprocket bucket. I would be curious to hear from you. Oh, my God.
That was beautiful, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
Those
continue.
were spirit fingers, my friends.
Those were spirit fingers. Well
These
rehearsed.
are spirit fingers. No, so
Double honor thespian. Sorry,
what I
continue.
would love to know
The
from you,
listeners
Devin,
are so confused right now.
This is what happens when you don't hang out with us during the live recording. This is what you miss. Spirit fingers and inappropriate commentary. But Devin, what I want to hear from you, though, and Max, also you as well, is that in prepping for this episode, as someone who, I work with George. So if I'm not living, breathing, huffing HubSpot like every waking hour of my life, I'm behind. But even so, I remember preparing for this episode and being like, man, this is not
like the good old days of HubSpot, where it's like updates came out in batches. You know, there are just constant changes to the platform, whether we're talking about Service Hub, whether we're talking about CMS Hub is now suddenly Content Hub, whether we have all of the Commerce Hub just getting released like right out the gate. What I would love to hear from you guys is what is a way for people who are HubSpotters to effectively try to keep their brain wrapped around the constant updates that are coming out of Big Orange?
Ignore the product update panels. Stop licking that thing every single morning and come watch me and Kyle. Come watch me and Kyle break down all the week's greatest updates on the Monday morning briefing with
you know
me and
what
Kyle
that sound is,
Jepsen.
guys? That's not hot air escaping a balloon. That is called shilling. That is that's shilling.
However,
I'm shilling for big HubSpot tips and tricks.
Hold on.
I love it.
With that said,
I was going to double down on the shill, but go ahead.
yeah. However, with that said, Max, you need to, after this episode, put a link to where I could send people for that. Because I will add it to my super admin training deck, because I literally have a slide that is how do you pay attention to all of the updates and keep up to date and not feel overwhelmed. And I literally have about one more slot that feels like it should have your name on it, that we're talking to these super admins during the training.
Well, to be fair, me and Kyle, it's so hashtag HubSpot tip. No, there's a HubSpot tips and tricks page that he runs.
Medicated
that's
is a magnanimous match.
That's in,
and then every Monday at what time is it? Every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. That's when you want him to show up. Kyle accidentally sent out a newsletter to everybody on the, which Salim pointed out in the chat during it. Kyle accidentally sent out an email to everybody saying it was at 9:00. And so no one showed up for our episode last week.
Whoops.
We had 14 people. The week before we had 185 people watching live.
Nice.
Yeah, Kyle nailed it.
Good job, buddy.
If I can get my shill on real quick.
Shill away, buddy.
Yeah, so I understand a lot of updates, a lot of information comes at you fast. If you go to the HubSpot YouTube page, you'll see introducing HubSpot biannual product spotlight. It's been up for 3 weeks, has 563 views. I'm looking at a marketing and sales automation tutorial, and knowing the person who put it on, I know is going to be bananas. 1,000 views. Like, the information is out there. It's like that one episode of The Simpsons when they changed the area code and everyone knew but the Homer. Like, what about the area code camp? Oh, they didn't even tell us. The flyers, they didn't tell us. I'm wearing a shirt right now. They didn't say anything. We can only put the information out there so much. You have to be able to search for it. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend going to the HubSpot YouTube page. We put a lot of effort into it. And I say we because you're going to see me all over that damn boy. You know it.
There was the shell.
You know, I would like to say this. I don't have a weekly show or anything, but, you know.
You're on one.
I know, but like on tomorrow morning, if anybody wants to like hang out while I live stream doing laundry, like I can vibe and talk about HubSpot. That's all I got.
Wow. Everybody needs some good laundry tips. I'm just saying.
I know, because apparently I can't get my own socks into my own. I've been staring at those two socks on the floor for an hour, and it's effing killing me. It is killing me. I don't. Anyway, George, take us home. For our listeners at home, this has been a really great episode. We've talked about mindsets. We've talked about big picture stuff. We've gotten to the nitty gritty of the tool. I love episodes like this. But George, if you were to bring some focus, if you were to tell our listeners the most important takeaways that you want them to keep in mind coming out of this episode, regardless as to whether or not they have HubSpot or Service Hub, what would you say they need to remember?
I mean, it has been a really good episode. I would, a couple of things. One, if you're somebody who hasn't used the Service Hub, hasn't purchased the Service Hub because you historically looked at it and said, it's just not that. It may be that now. And so I would say re-diagnose if this tool makes sense, especially when you plug it into the rest of what you're using and what that actually equals for you as them being connected pieces of your business. The other thing I'll say is that for me, we have to rewind to the very beginning of this conversation. Max said something about it. Devins, you said something about it. Liz, I know you're a big advocate of it. I went on a whole diatribe of it. At the end of the day, if you're a marketer, if you're a sales rep, if you're a CEO, if you're anybody that is not in the service department, it is your job to delight your customers. It is not only the job of your service department to delight the customers. It is a 100% all hands on deck team effort to delight them as they're driving up to your doorway, to delight them when you open the door, to delight them when you're serving the meal, and to delight them while they're hanging out on your couch, enjoying your house for the rest of your life, using your remote and your toilet. In other words, your products and your services. Like, delight across the entire board. And I'm waxing a little bit funny, but I'm speaking complete truth. It is a 100% team sport. So how the heck are you going to do that if not all your teams are using the same football that happens to be orange and happens to be awesome? Okay, Hub Heroes, we've reached the end of another episode. Will Lord Lack continue to loom over the community, or will we be able to defeat him in the next episode of the Hub Heroes Podcast? Make sure you tune in and find out in the next episode. Make sure you head over to thehubheroes.com to get the latest episodes and become part of the League of Heroes. FYI, if you're part of the League of Heroes, you'll get the show notes right in your inbox, and they come with some hidden power-up potential as well. Make sure you share this podcast with a friend, leave a review if you like what you're listening to, and use the hashtag HubHeroes Podcast on any of the socials, and let us know what strategy conversation you'd like to listen into next. Until next time, when we meet and combine our forces, remember to be a happy, helpful, humble human, and of course, always be looking for a way to be someone's hero.